and welcome back to Know It All. I'm Kristen Hankinson.
And I'm Robert Turnbull, and today we want you to know your veterans. So there's a lot of, I think, confusion in dealing with Medicare and veterans benefits. I think a lot of people really get scared when they come across those people. So really want to take some time, get you to understand some of the programs that are out there, some of them that are available, and how you might be able to help out some of these folks.
Right, for sure. I know this is a segment that as agents are out there in the marketplace, we are running, or meeting veterans probably daily, if not weekly, right? I mean, there's so many out there. And it's true, they do have some coverage available to them, but I do think it's something that many agents shy away from because they're a little bit worried they could disrupt coverage or not do the right thing. But what we're finding out this year, if you've seen some of the marketing from all of the big players, is that veterans coverage has kind of taken center stage in some respects as far as an opportunity for agents to include in their business plan.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one of those things that you see, when you see all the big players are actually doing it, there's a market there. There's a reason. They're not just going to throw out a plan for an arbitrary reason. They see that as, a viable audience to market to.
Well, sure. So, okay, there's TRICARE that I'm sure we've all heard about. What that really boils down to is uniformed military personnel with less than 20 years of service. Typically, that is not free.
And then we have TRICARE for Life, which is for veterans who have 20 or more years of service and are over 65. And then really the Veterans Affairs Health System is going to cover any veteran of any war, any uniform. Yeah,
they do great work, and they're really out there for all veterans together. And that's simplified, but I think that gives the audience a general overview of what's out there right now.
Right. I think it gives you a feel for some of the different programs and the terminology, because I think a lot of people hear, TRICARE, and they just tune out, and they're not okay. What can I help this person with? So knowing those terms and those names are going to be really useful.
Yeah, and I would just say too, in this little segment, we really can't dive as deep as probably needed. So if any agents are out there and you're interested in learning more, raise your hand, let us know you're interested. We'll be glad to set up a call, go over it in a little more detail.
So let's take a look at these statistics really, because this is that market we're talking about when we say, there's a significant audience for this type of plan. Right now, there's over 4 million veterans who are over 65, so that puts them in that Medicare space.
I was astonished when I saw that number. I guess I was, I'm in the business a long time, you're expecting to see numbers, but when you see 4 million veterans over 65 enrolled in the MA, that's a big number. And that's a big opportunity, and that's a lot of people who really could use extra help, right? They could be leaving benefits on the table.
Absolutely, because there's very few of them that are actually enrolled in any type of Medicare Advantage plan. There's a big gap in that with less than 30%, around like 25% that are actually actively enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan. And surprisingly, a huge chunk of them aren't even using the VA. When we look at 75% of these folks don't use Medicare Advantage, don't use VA. They're really using Medicare only, and that's it. And a very, very small chunk that are using Medicaid as well. So I think being able to coordinate some of those benefits and help someone out, you could really do a lot for them and getting them additional services.
Oh, for sure. It's a service. And then just to kind of add to that too, when we talk about veterans, their spouses also qualify.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So when we talk about veterans, we kind of jumped in, we talked about what are the basics, we talked about the numbers that are staggering that opportunity. And I think the idea of this segment is to kind of, whet your palate for this, get you interested to learn a little bit more. But I think important in that is to know what kind of challenges the veterans face.
Absolutely.
Or what they gain by adding one of these MA plans to their existing coverage.
Oh, exactly. And really, what we see, and this is kind of the biggest complaint that I get, when I talk to agents or talk to clients or talk to veterans who are not even in the Medicare space, is wait times.
Right.
Finding, actually wait times on location and wait times to schedule appointments. It can really be an obstacle, especially if you have a cold. I mean, right now is a completely different scenario.
Yeah.
But if you have a cold or a flu, if you have to wait 2 weeks to get into,
a specific hospital, they're kind of funneling everybody into these channels, and there's
Exactly.
only so much space, right? So,
Right.
so adding an MA plan can actually increase the providers that someone can go to, right?
Right.
It gives them that expanded network, which is really helpful.
And another piece of that really is is copays, things
Right.
like that, unexpected copays. If you are going outside of the VA hospital or going outside, you might get hit with something that you don't really foresee.
Right.
The MA portions try to target that as well. And of course, when we look at this, these are really stuck to very rigid federal guidelines, budget restrictions, different things like that can really get in the way of.
There's a lot of factors that come into
Yes.
play. Throw a global pandemic on top of
Yes.
that, and really the system is crazy. So anything you can do to help yourself, help your clients, to just expand their access to care, it's really what it is.
Right, absolutely.
Does nothing but help. But there's also some extra benefits they can qualify for too, believe it or not, right? Like there's still benefits on the table that they can be taking advantage of.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, when we look at these plans very specifically, we kind of broke this down, into a couple different sections, which is more freedom, more choice, more coverage, more extras, and more savings.
Right.
More, because that's the language we want to be speaking. We don't want to be in the message of replacing what they have, because what they have has worked and it's something that they value, and so we always want to have that conversation of more, because like we said, more freedom is getting outside of the VA providers into a national carrier network or a local carrier HMO network.
Yeah, so increase their access to care, provide some additional benefits like a fitness benefit that they may not have right now. The OTC catalogs are phenomenal this year, so anyone out there selling Medicare Advantage knows that exists. So the fact they can sit from their home and order a quarterly benefit or monthly benefit from a drugstore, fantastic. Hearing, dental, vision, all of these are music to their ears, right?
And
Things
aren't
that they don't
provided
know.
by original Medicare or not being provided
Definitely
elsewhere. So yeah, those really kick in at that juncture. And really, one of the most appealing things that has been an actual selling point when talking to veterans, talking to a customer that's on the fence, because they might not really have too much that they're paying in terms of cost sharing, but when it comes down to, hey, a lot of these plans, depending on the state you're in, has a Part B give back.
Right.
So what you're getting $40 or $50 back in your Social Security check, that's a ton to somebody who's
money, right?
It's straight up dollars that are going to end up in their bank account, and that's really what that'll get their ears perked up if they're not really someone who's utilizing care. You have a lot of healthier 65-year-olds nowadays that don't have a lot of appointments
fixed
that they go
incomes,
to.
fixed
Right.
incomes. Yeah, so I would say, when you're looking at veterans coverage, if it's something you have glossed over or you haven't really taken the time to know about it, definitely don't worry. It's not hard to learn. I think there's agents who are a little bit, hesitant or scared, as we discussed, to jump in there. But I do think it's something that, if you take the time, can be added to your business plan. You'd have to do some thinking about how to engage agents in your community. Right now, during the pandemic, that's a little challenging.
Right.
But that will end.
Eventually, yes.
We are looking forward. It will end if you're not running into veterans on a daily basis. There are places in your community you can go to introduce yourself and start helping that segment.
Oh yeah, and if there are agents out there who have different things to talk about, situations. I have a lot of friends that live across the country who are military or former military, and there's certain populations that are really dense with veterans, and those are if you have stories to share, can comment in the comments below, or
Definitely.
give us a ring. There's definitely a lot of have some interaction. I always like to share stories on that. Now, one of the finer points too that we've talked about before is why an MA only versus an MAPD? Because someone who's on VA coverage, they are getting their drugs through the VA, so they don't really need that prescription drug coverage. But on someone who's on standard VA, an MAPD is not really going to interfere with that VA. They really run parallel to one another. But why MA only over that MAPD? And I really think it's that the benefit structure, because line by line is just a little bit better than, you're going to go down the line versus that MAPD.
Right.
In addition to that, Part B, give back, you're going to have zero premium. We're probably going to have very low PCP and specialist copays that are going to be lower than that MAPD plan. So I think that's a really good distinction to make when we look at these. Like, okay, there is value to it to look at it over the MAPD.
All right, Rob, well, I think it's time to button it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so agents, when you're thinking of this market, the veterans population arguably is one of the most important segments of our population that's out there. If you find it in your heart and you are driven to help this population, this is a terrific segment for you to consider. Just take a look at the market alone with over 4 million veterans over age 65 who really are leaving some important benefits on the table.
Absolutely. And that's really the second point, is the add-ons. The benefits that are there are, they're very rich. They might not have additional dental services, they might not have vision or hearing services, and really require them. So, getting them at a very low cost and assisting them and getting those benefits is going to be really beneficial to them and for you.
And what about messaging?
Most importantly, we want to be very clear that we're not replacing existing coverage.
Right.
We're really just stacking benefits onto that particular plan. So, when we have those conversations, we don't want to take anything away from these people. We want to, show that we're giving.
Right, we're here to help complement what they have.
Precisely.
Yeah. So I think that's it. I think, hopefully today we helped you to know your veterans coverage
Absolutely.
a little bit more. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.